Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening. You are all very welcome to day one, session one of the In Effect show. My name is Christina Quigley. I am Raise Up Revenue Hacks host here in Ireland, and we are a global-based company. Today, we have a very good panel. We're talking about the government perspective on key developments and regulatory outlook in regards to hospitality recovery, and no better people than the panel that we have today. I am delighted to introduce some of the most innovative gentlemen I've had the pleasure of having on a panel in a very long time. So we look forward to answering all your questions. If you do have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. And for now, we'll introduce the rest of the panel. Eric.
Hi, good morning, everybody, or I guess good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are and when you're watching this. My name is Eric Reinerman. I'm thrilled to be here today. I am Policy Counsel and Director of State and Local Government Affairs for AHOA, which stands for the Asian American Hotel Owners Association, for those of you that don't know us. We've got almost 20,000 members nationwide who, according to our most recent data, own almost 1 out of every 2 hotels and motels in the US. We own billions of dollars in property assets and employ thousands of people. So I think AHOA and our members represent a really, interesting cross section of the hospitality community. And I'm just happy to be here to discuss what's going on at the government level and what pandemic stricken governments are doing right in terms of accelerating growth, which I guess is the, topic of the panel and what maybe they can improve upon. So thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here, Eric, and we can't wait to have your insights. Michael?
Well, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. Michael Sherwood. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for the City of Las Vegas. Obviously, Las Vegas needs no introduction. I think everybody knows about we're a worldwide destination, open for business, and we are really excited to be back to normal here, basically, moving people, having conventions, doing the things that really help our local economy, but help the world heal and recover. Well, better place to come and relax a little bit after being kind of cooped up than Las Vegas. And a lot of the innovative things we're doing to support not just hospitality, but business in general, as well as basically, continuing to spread the word about this is the destination for not just entertainment, but for technology and for innovation in business.
Michael, you've sold it. We're on a plane right away for sure. And we look forward to hearing more from you in regards to what Vegas is doing and how you've done differently. Because again, a lot of the countries that are watching this right now are starting to reopen. And it's really nice to hear normal. I love hearing that word because there has been a question for quite some time on, will we get back to normal? So thank you for bringing that big smile to everybody's face right now. And Pavel.
Thank you, Christina. And probably the easiest way is to say hi to everybody because of the so many different time zones. And I am Paweł Pietrasiński. I am Director of International Trade for Nevada Governor's Office of Economic Development. So I am the guy who is responsible for bringing or attracting foreign companies, investors, tourists to the great state of Nevada. And today, I am here to basically to tell you that we are open for business. We are ready to grow together with you, and probably with 3 pillars I like to focus today. One would be, of course, business travel. Business travel is very close to all our hearts, but I will tell you a few words and few thoughts how it can be, accelerated and what's about our plans. The second is that to be resilient, I like to focus a bit on building the clusters approach around the hospitality sector, how to diversify it, how to be more immune for future such events, unpredicted events like pandemic ones. And the third one I like to mention about a few technologies because Las Vegas and Nevada is the great testing bed for state-of-the-art technologies, and those technologies are not only the way how to do business better, but also how to build the trust as Las Vegas, as Nevada, to our customers, to business partners.
Thank you so much, Pavel. And I do really look forward to having a conversation in particular about digital transformation, what you guys have done completely differently in Vegas to really encourage people to the state. It is so insightful. So let's kick this conversation off because I'm really excited to hear about how the United States and Vegas in particular has been recovering post-pandemic. you know, the rest of Europe has shut itself off. A lot of the world shut itself off in regards to travel, whereas the States kept traveling. And the market started to recover very, very quickly, which is really positive and really good to see. Eric, what are your members seeing at the moment in regards to positive recovery across the US?
So we're seeing a good uptick in travel, as you said. Even we didn't completely shut down, obviously, but we've got members in all 50 states. I can't say that the recovery is uniform across all the states, but in states where tourism is big, we really are seeing a real revival, particularly with increased vaccination rates. I think that's really made all the difference. Access to and acceptance of the vaccine has really made people more confident, and I think that would be, if I had to highlight something that the government's done that really encouraged travel the most, it's pushing that vaccine and making it clear to people it's safe. It doesn't really matter which one you get. They're all going to keep you safe from getting a serious case of COVID. And that gave people the confidence they needed, because that's what people were lacking. They didn't think it was safe to travel. And so if you don't think it's safe, you're not going to put your family on a plane or go anywhere or stay in hotels or do anything leisure related, if you don't think it's safe. But I think that's probably the number one thing the government's done is make it clear that vaccine is crucial to our recovery. The government's also done a lot of other good things, I think, in terms of, a bailout. Now, the hotel industry itself hasn't gotten a hotel specific bailout, which I think we deserve. There's a bill in Congress now called the Save Hotel Jobs Act that we're pushing for that would be really good to help our owners, both big and small, to get back. It's essentially a revamp of the Paycheck Protection Program, but would be just for hotels. That would be great. There's been a number of other things. I guess one more that I would highlight would be the American Rescue Plan and the billions that are going to be poured in the state and local governments to shore up the historic revenue shortfalls we've seen at the state and local level. And we're hoping to direct some of that money toward hospitality to, again, get us back to where we need to be.
I love how in the States there's a huge focus on the recovery, but also that, there's a lot of different people involved in the recovery. It's not just the government that's trying to help. It's people like yourself, Eric, that are trying to push through all these different bills and get in contact with local representatives to be able to push this. And it's quite unfortunate that we are at that stage that we need to do that for recovery. However, Michael, you have the best news story, because again, you have marketed that Vegas is open for business and you are running at 100% occupancy. How is it in Vegas at the moment?
It's energetic. It's energizing. It's fabulous. I went to a hockey game just a few days ago, and it was a packed house. It was incredible to see the energy and the excitement of not just tourists, but locals that have been here. I think Eric brought out a lot of great points. Let's go back that, government has done a tremendous job across the United States in reopening, but let's not forget private business as well has stepped up. They have put in, I've never seen so many different types of sanitizing, hand sanitizing, cleaning of tables. The policies and procedures that private business has taken upon itself has been electrifying here in Las Vegas. I feel very safe transversing the city more than ever before. The amount of attention to detail, the way that our private businesses are responding to the pandemic and throughout the pandemic has been fabulous. Obviously, government, we have done a really good job in Nevada as a state, but also Las Vegas locally, in making sure that vaccines are readily available to everyone in the population. And we continue to do that and encourage everyone to get vaccinated. Huge, things there. But I think, when it comes down to it, yes, Las Vegas is open. We are excited to have everyone back. Christina, your invitation is open right now. You hop on a plane, we will make sure that you're, taken care of. But let's not also forget the businesses. Eric touched on that as well. And so we've done a lot here locally to really help not just hospitality, but our restaurants come up with new ways to deliver food and other options during the pandemic. And as we come through it now, those options are still available to them. And we're looking at other ways in incentivizing people to visit all the local businesses locally And as well as we opened up our International Innovation Center again, which is to attract businesses from around the world to let them know they can establish a footprint here in Las Vegas. What better place, for technology companies to be right next to where we have the largest technology show, CES, every year. So there's just so much phenomenal opportunity, which I'm sure we'll discuss more. But just it is so good to be here, and it's so great to look out my window and see so many people from all over the world, re-enjoying what they've always enjoyed, which is our fabulous city, Las Vegas.
I'm thrilled and delighted. This panel brings so much air of positivity to the recovery, to lots of different regions who, as I mentioned, are starting to come out of a pandemic, just like where I am based here at the moment in Ireland. Eric touched on vaccines. Michael, you touched on vaccines. Pavel, let's have a conversation about the digital transformation and how vaccine passports or health certificates in the future will be the way to encourage people to start traveling a lot more, in particular for business travel, not just leisure.
Yes, thank you, Christian, and thank you, Michael, for mentioning this vaccination process as the most important for making sure that we are opening safely and we open safely. So this is another, we are in another phase, yes, and this is very, I would say, first technology-oriented phase. So basically, when you are looking for different technologies, we can name a few, but I would say this is from high touch to high tech. Yes, this is contactless payments, QR accessible digital menus, touchless elevators, entrance doors, etc. Also acceleration towards AI and contactless virtual reality environments, etc., etc. So a lot of it is interesting that a lot of those technologies were introduced because to improve safety, but they will stay after the pandemic when pandemic ends. So this will increase the quality of the experience, quality of life of the people coming to Vegas, to Nevada, but experience at all with all the clients of the hospitality sector. The biggest problem, and thank you, Krista, for this question, the biggest problem which we basically right now have is that there is a business travel. Because when you look on the average right now ratio of customers, before pandemic we had 42 million tourists in Vegas, and 7 million of them were strictly business. And when you look on the occupancy right now, you have almost 80% or plus during the weekends. So we are almost there, and have in mind we had two biggest investments. Yes, one in downtown Vegas, Circa Hotel, another Vegas World Resort, the biggest hotel investment in the United States this year. But the challenge is that what is happening during the week, especially Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when the occupancy is lower. Yes, it's close to 50%, and this is because that was for business mostly those days. And today is a very historic day for Vegas, because we have World of Concrete, the first big international global trade show organized in person. But the challenge is that when we double check who is there from the world, half of the world is not present there. Yes, so still Europe is not present there, UK is not present there, many other countries are basically not able to travel. Yes, so they are represented by their branches, the representatives, but they still are not able to travel. So my final word would be: let's take a look what other also parts of the world are doing to ensure that these business travels would be better. And one of the ways is what, for example, European Union is doing with this vaccination certificates. They are name it kind of differently than passports, but basically what is happening that there is a standard for people fully vaccinated, that they will be able to travel within Europe soon. Yes, July 1st would be the introduction of the full initiative. And as we know, right now there are talks between White House and the European Union about the possibility of working on the kind of the double so the standards which could be accepted on both sides, and hopefully that will be a case that this will allow this business travels, because what I like to say, according to one of the research made by Las Vegas Convention and Visitor Authority, over half, so over 50% of business travelers express the fact that they are burned out of the virtual business meetings. This is basically more than a half saying, okay, this is not a way to do for in the long run. The real way is to go to the plane, fly to your destination and meet the people for the direct in-person contacts. That would be ideal situation, but we know that it will take a time to achieve that.
Pavel, we all want our air miles. We all collect air miles, and that is just it. I love the way Eric smiles. Eric's like, I never stopped collecting these the whole way through the pandemic.
Yep.
Let's have a conversation about the digital adoption though in hospitality. So Eric, you work with hotels day in and day out. It is quite expensive to adopt all this technology, but there's massive benefits to be able to do it, not only from a customer's perspective, but also from a hospitality and hotel operation perspective. Are you actively encouraging your hotels to start looking at proper digital transformation right now in regards to QR codes, mobile key, and virtual check-in kiosks, in particular as we're coming out of this pandemic?
Yes, we partner with some third-party companies that are starting to really get into this space, and it's going to be a hot space. So I think that is key to making sure that, again, we're going back to that the idea of safety, right, and making people feel that it's safe. I was in a hotel in LA for the weekend a couple of weeks ago, and they were perhaps almost overdoing the spraying down of things, because I think that the science shows us now that you don't really get COVID by touching objects, right, through fomite transmission. I think we're seeing that it's mostly airborne, but whatever makes people safe to travel and to be able to go where they want to go, we're in favor of. So we're definitely seeing that. We are, like I said, we're partnering with companies that do that, and our hoteliers are adopting that. And pretty much from day one, our hoteliers, even the smallest ones, realized cleanliness was going to be key and guest safety was going to be crucial, and they have followed suit and made sure that things were as clean as possible at all times. Sometimes even rooms are left fallow for 24 hours after guests have left in order to ensure cleanliness and to slow the transmission of the virus. So we've done a lot on that. And if I could just touch very briefly, and I know we're already well into the segment, shockingly, but on vaccine passports, we think it's a great idea. Not all states agree. You've even seen some states pass laws against having vaccine passports. So we would definitely like to encourage those, rather than having them outlawed, which they are in Florida. There was a bill passed to make any sort of type of a vaccine passport illegal. That's not an ideal law in our opinion, but we hope that we see some adoption of that going forward.
I think what's interesting is everyone keeps calling it a vaccine passport. And I had a conversation a few weeks ago with Meeting Partners Incentives, who actually clearly said it should be called a health certificate. Not everyone is able to get vaccinated due to health reasons. So if you're able to have a passport or a certificate that shows that you had regular PCR tests up until the day of arrival and or day going into an event, then I don't think it should be called a vaccine passport. I don't think we should be calling it a passport, because I think it takes away from everybody. It's almost like secluding people rather than being all inclusive, and it only turns people away from traveling, which is what we're trying not to do going forward. But we had a very interesting question for Michael. So I hope you're prepared, Michael. This came from Robert. So no industry has been more affected by the pandemic than hospitality. Leisure and hospitality has lost 3.1 million jobs during the pandemic that have yet to return, representing more than a third of the unemployed people in the United States alone, according to the Bureau of Statistics. Is there some plan to support the hotels to save these jobs?
Well, again, I'm in technology for the city. So as far as, government propping up or providing funding for jobs, I can tell you right now here locally, there is a huge demand for hospitality workers across all segments. Even at the local municipal level, we are having trouble finding lifeguards. And so we're encouraging, and those are in the resort community, in most resorts that have larger destination pools, lifeguards are a key essential. So we're seeing, a lot more activity. I think you will see the return of most of those jobs, but some of those jobs will change by technology. What Eric's been talking about, we talked about some of the different technologies out there. They're just going to be, not changing. The workforce will change, but the amount of workers needed will still be there. So I still think it's very early to see, and I'm sure, again, others, there has not been a specific hospitality rescue plan put together by the federal government. And so, that's still out there. Hopefully the American Rescue Plan, there will be some additions, and maybe some of that will be earmarked for hospitality. But I think really the bigger story for hospitality is what we touched on, and Eric did a great job leading into some of the things, is technology itself. Technology can be a key for the travel and hospitality industry in general. Just much like Wi-Fi was in the beginning. Not every hotel had Wi-Fi. I remember searching out hotels just because if they had Wi-Fi or not. And now it's a standard across the board. So I think you will see more technology. You mentioned the QR codes for menus. At first, myself as a technologist and futurist, I wasn't keen on that idea. I like the old menu. But I do like the ability that some of the restaurants have taken this, where they're taking that technology and able to do new menus on the fly, kind of change it up on a daily basis. And you couldn't do that with a printed menu. So I do think, the technology that the hospitality industry is adopting, keyless room entry, you can get in sometimes I dread most is not the flight. It's not the taxi drive or the Uber or Lyft to the hotel. It's waiting in the check-in line when I want to just get to my room and change into my comfy clothes and go down to the bar and relax a little. Now with all these new options, one, you're building trust with people that are coming to your establishment. You're also providing choice. And I've seen that in many places I've traveled, even throughout the pandemic. I can choose to go to the front desk and check in, or I can choose to get a keyless entry and check in. It's all about the amenities. It's all about the options. And it's all about establishing that brand, that hospitality brand, with trust, and you trusting them, and them providing you amenities or options, as I call it. So I think, a lot of opportunity there. And I think as those opportunities come out, we'll address that individual's question. The jobs will come back and we'll follow it.
I love how you got excited about digital transformation. That's like my baby. That's where I live.
That's my baby.
I learn. And I think what's really interesting is that hospitality has been evolving. In the 80s was very stagnant. There was only, that's when revenue management started, and it really came to the forefront in the 90s, early 2000s. That was the explosion of the OTAs, heavy reliance on the OTAs. Now it's coming down to digital technology. As you mentioned, Michael, Wi-Fi is a standard now across every country, across the world. And now it's down to being able to have that conversation with the guest without being in person. If we're using chatbots and we're using Instagram messaging all the time to have conversations and place orders, why can't we do it when we're in a hotel? And I think that's where the industry needs to move. But Eric, you mentioned about the jobs bill. You mentioned about the hospitality bill. So can you give some air of hope that there should be a support coming in the future, in the States in particular?
Sure. So there luckily within the American Rescue Plan, there were, billions, a lot of money, depending on your population, of the state or city. If you're big enough, like Clark County, which is where Las Vegas is, Mayor Goodman, I guess it is, she'll be getting a lot of money on her own to spend. There aren't that many strings attached to that. Then to continue with the example of Nevada, right? Governor Sisolak will get his own, the legislature will get their own, amount of money through American Rescue Plan. So there is money coming down the pike. The key is to lobby our state and local officials as to how to spend that money, how to allocate those dollars. And that's where I would encourage everyone on this call and just anyone, generally, to sort of engage with your local officials. A lot of times people only think of politics as happening in Washington, and they don't. They happen in the state capitals. And, getting to know your state senator, your state assemblyman, your state, House rep, these things are very important. And often they're very much more amenable to talking to their constituents and actually listening to them, because they're not quite as bombarded as our federal officials in Washington. So you can, I have members that have close relationships with their state senators and their state House reps, and they will listen to them, and it matters. So how those federal dollars are allocated at the state and local level is going to be crucial going forward. We'd love to see some of it spent on property tax abatement. There's just so many things that could be done with that money to really that the ROI on would be incredible. So if that's kind of response.
It is education. I think it's the education side of it as well, that people need to be mindful of, that there needs to be an educational shift within teaching hospitality and encouraging people into the industry. I fell into this industry years ago. I'm actually a scientist and a teacher by trade. And I've been in this industry over 10 years now, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I've had the most amazing experience in this industry. Now, of course, hospitality is quite tough. There's certain elements of the job that you will have a bad day, but you'll have that with everybody else. So right. I don't think it's not always a bad news story. And I think that's also something that the news outlets need to start focusing on, is how good hospitality can be when it's good, and that it's not always a bad news story, because that is aid to our recovery. You can't recover unless you've got people. And if people aren't encouraged to join us, and join the squad, that's what I call it, it's a squad, that's what we are, then, no one's going to be here to serve you at the end of the day. We had a great question for Pavel. Pavel, you had some really good insights about weekday and weekend occupancy in Vegas. However, do you expect this scenario specific to Vegas, or do you expect it the same for some leisure destinations? And the same question in regards to business travel to other business destinations.
Thank you for the question. Generally, this is regarding the general approach to business travel. It concerns every U.S. destination, in fact, because right now, if we are basically lacking, and Las Vegas is a great example of that. We are, and that was also a question, one of the question about unemployment as well. Basically, we are still having this kind of the gap between 20% in the kind of the leisure hospitality and 50% in the business hospitality. This is a gap, yes, and it's not a surprise for us. Close to 20% of people visited Las Vegas from abroad just for tourist purposes, and a bit less, of course, for a business ones. So it's a lot of work to be done, but of course I kind of refer to your discussion on those certificates. Even yes, and I fully agree. In European Union calling this a EU green certificates, and yes, this is not only about vaccinations; it's also about testing people and have the updated testing results just to prove that every site is safe. What we are doing as Nevada, we are vaccinating basically not only the society, but also we are trying to make sure that all the hospitality related workers are vaccinated and everything is safe there, because it's a kind of the mutual trust. Yes, we have to our customers have to trust us. We have to trust them, but really, I think the breakthrough is just on the corner. And I give you an example. When I started to count major investments in this, relatively small on scale of the number of population or GDP state of Nevada, we have, and in one city, the biggest one, Vegas, we have $2 billion investment, which are right now is opening. I'm talking about El Giant Stadium in sport, which is directly connected to the hospital industry, making it better cluster, more resilient one. So we have 2 billion. Then we have 1 billion extension of the Las Vegas Convention Center, which is basically for business travel. And this is so we have already 3. And then when we add the new investments in the hotels, then more than $5 billion. Yes, and everything is happening in the last 2 years, I would say. So having that in mind, such enormous investment will create jobs. And I'm not talking about only construction jobs. I'm talking about everything which is related to not only to hospitality itself, but to sport industry, to e-sport is starting to be even kind of the catching up in Vegas. But what is probably the new trend, and I like to address this today, is the new trend, and Michael also mentioned about that, about his Las Vegas International Innovation Center. We are doing a lot to make startup grow within a kind of the hospitality environment in that sector. So what we are trying to do, we are also supporting universities like University of Nevada, Las Vegas with their Blackfire innovation. This is incubator for the new technologies, mostly hospitality technologies, esport as well. And this is public-private partnership between University of Nevada, Las Vegas and Caesars Entertainment, but a lot of big corporations like, for example, Panasonic are there, but the whole idea is that this is another path of jobs and high-tech jobs, which we may bring from other states to Nevada, but we can grow on our own as well. But the most important is if we are building the cluster, so the strong sector of the hospitality sector, we need also a very wealthy and very dynamic, robust startup sector, which should be basically surrounded by programs, by different financial opportunities, and the kind of the mentorship networks. And we are doing that, I think, pretty successfully.
I think that's it. Very interesting, in particular with the innovation and technology behind it. Michael, you did touch on the innovation side of Vegas. What is it that you have done differently or approached differently when you were speaking to your residents in Vegas to adopt all this transformation and technology? What were your words of encouragement so that people can actually take this on board and bring it to their states, their counties, and even their countries?
Well, Las Vegas is kind of special. It is special. It's not kind of special. It is special. It's near and dear to my heart. But we're a city all about change and innovation. If you look at Las Vegas over the last several years, it's always going through change. But what kind of information, to answer the question, what kind of encouragement or, technology adoption is never easy. Change is hard for all of us. But I think, having the conversation and starting, and figuring out how technology can play a role, whether it be autonomous. We've been doing a lot of different things with drones, not just locally, but statewide. We're doing it with autonomous vehicles. Prior to the pandemic, we had 75 BMWs that were autonomously driven up and down the city streets. We do a lot of firsts here. We were the first city to launch an autonomous vehicle that drove in mixed flow traffic, meaning, coming alongside normal vehicles. And so, those are things that are groundbreaking, that are willing to change. The community here supports that, the population supports that, and people that visit support that. That's what they know Vegas to be. But outside of Las Vegas, the industry, the whether it be the hospitality industry or industry in general, innovation is very important. And I think we've seen throughout the pandemic the ability to come up with different technologies for cleaning rooms, for sanitization of different surfaces. And people are pretty open to those types of ideas if they are included in the conversation or they are advised. I mean, a lot of the places that I traveled through during the pandemic had cameras that were checking your temperature. No, as long as I understood what it was doing and what they were doing with it, I think, there's that trust factor again, but it's building trust with your community. And that's what we're all about. That's what we've been doing. And then on the business side, our innovation center is to really bring companies, remote workers from around the world to live and play here and stay here. And again, building trust. This is a great place to live. It's a great place to work from. Remote workers are welcome here. And we do everything we can to help them succeed. And again, they create more economy for the local hospitality industry. And then business and our innovation center, which we open to companies throughout the world to try us out, come out here, set up operations, use our facilities, bring your customers here. Everybody loves coming to Las Vegas. So why not have, a headquarters here or a district office and bring people in? So it's just coming up with creative ways to use technology and ensuring that people understand it, what you're doing with it, how it's helping the community. And then secondly, just having that open dialogue, open communications. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. I think that's the biggest thing that most people are hesitant to is thinking outside, worried about the impacts of something might have versus say, hey, take a little risk, try something new, and see where it's at. And that there's no difference. We saw that in the midst of the pandemic. We launched a remote worker campaign and encouraged people to come stay in our hotels, come work remote from here where it's safe and we have great amenities. And we hope now that they're here, that they stay, buy a house here, enjoy Las Vegas and all the different amenities we have, and then go see the world, but come back home to Las Vegas.
I love it. And I think what's very interesting is that you touched on being innovative and thinking outside of the box. And I love hearing things like that. And I'm sure Eric has lots of stories about all these members talking about, thinking outside of the box and what they've done. But I think what's very refreshing is to see how your office, Michael, is working with hospitality providers across the world and across the States in encouraging them to actively take on all these new transformations. Eric, how important is it for you, for the States, to actually have conversations with you and your members to help encourage you all and get everyone on that one path to a positive recovery?
I mean, it's crucial for us, and one thing that I think that Michael touched on briefly, if I'm not mistaken, is the labor shortage that we hear so much about in the news. And I think that the states have a big role to play to address that labor shortage. A lot of states have ended the unemployment insurance that a lot of workers were getting. That was definitely contributing to the labor shortage. I don't believe it was the sole cause. I think there were many issues involved, including childcare, people's fear of COVID, people not, some employees not being able to get the vaccine, so they were wary of going back to work. So we're always want people to only, return to work when it's safe. But what the states can do is, just make it safer for employees to come back and help the labor shortage, which is really hurting our members. I mean, I'm sure there are people on this call who know exactly what I mean. I have many owners who are cleaning rooms, running the front desks because they can't get people. And I think that we're slowly getting back, but the labor shortage is an issue. So that's something that I would say the states could really focus on to help us get back to normal.
I 100% agree. But I think there's also an element of the recovery is going to change a lot of people's roles. Obviously not general managers and owners, because I'm sorry, they should not be cleaning rooms on a regular basis. But I do think it's going to change a lot of the roles into a hybrid role. Revenue and sales will become amalgamated into one. A property manager in a focused service may become revenue and sales and the general manager, or a property manager. But I think it's quite interesting that this pandemic has brought so many changes to our industry for the better. And there is some changes that's been made for the better. Like we've all touched on digital transformation, all these new innovative ways of making business with people. Let's touch back, because I do want to have a conversation about how Vegas and the States are encouraging people to travel for conferencing. When we had this call last week, there was some really cool stuff being said that, there's weddings are happening in Vegas and there's events starting to happen soon. And there's been a lot of conference inquiries in particular. So what is it in Vegas that you are doing to actively encourage people to travel there for business needs or wedding needs right now?
Is that for me, Christina?
Either you or Pavel, whichever one of you guys want to jump in. Please don't jump in all at once.
I'll do a little quick one and I'll let Paulo take the big lead from a state perspective. No, I think, we did all types. In the very beginning, we had some of our hospitality companies provided free airfare. They had lotteries to grab that. So it's kind of promotional opportunities. But I think the biggest story is the safety aspect, the trust aspect that we built to let people know they could, one, we were open, they could come here safely, and that we had the right procedures in place as well as the right amenities, and that we were we were taking the pandemic serious, but we were providing them safe ways to still interact with our community in our fabulous city. And we're continuing to be that leader and providing the leadership to the world that says you can open your economy safely, you can open your hotel safely, you can still have fun and enjoy life while you're anywhere, whether you're traveling here in Las Vegas, which would be a mistake to go anywhere else, but other than here in Las Vegas, but as well as the world, it is safe to, as we start moving through this, there is a trust that you can build with individuals. There is a safe way to doing business. And I think all the hotels that I've been to across the United States in the last 6 months have been demonstrating that on an epic scale. But our state, has done things a little differently. And I think that leadership has been really open and honest in communicating. And I think that makes a huge difference. Now you see a lot of the campaigns coming back and the marketing. The other thing I would mention is we had a bunch of social media individuals here for a week long. They were all at all different types of properties. Again, it's outside the box thinking. These were social media influencers that were invited here. They were at several different hotels and they told the story. They shared the trust. They shared that with their constituency. Again, it's using technology with new innovative thought ways and how to reach people. Because a lot of people just don't know that we were open. And they would come back. And they are coming back. So, I'll let Paula, add more, but I think it's just that innovative spirit that's really been the best method, as well as the trust building.
Pavel.
Yeah, definitely, Michael. This is a innovation-based reopening, I would say, and it's better reopening, stronger one. And just one example, how we are trying to also to give additional value, but also attract people. I will give you one number: 4,444. And this is a number of the people per hour which could be transported through Tesla, so Elon Musk's own Boring company, Tesla underground ecosystem, transportation ecosystem, which is basically under the Las Vegas Strip and going to downtown. And what is important there is that this is not only attraction. Actually, with the business travel, it's cutting your time to move between events. And really, my office is also responsible for hosting foreign delegations. And please imagine that under one show, yes, I'm talking about the actually custom electronic show, you could have more than 200,000 people coming together with 70 plus foreign delegations. And then you have to navigate between different places, different venues, because this is not one convention center, this event is in a multiple location. And it was never possible till now. Right now, because of this excellent results of the right now capacity of full loop capacity of this system, this is one of the ways. And of course, Michael mentioned autonomous systems, which are basically also designed to speed up travels. But I would say that we are previously, before pandemic, we were talking, okay, this is leisure travel, this is business travel, and now we are calling this more and more time a bleisure travel. So basically, we are starting with business, and then we are staying more days for leisure, to rest, to see. Not only Vegas, in Nevada, other states, because it is great locations also from the tourist point of view. So my general way is that when we open, we offer better way. It's not only safer, but additional value. It's second to none.
I do agree 100%. And I think it's the incentives to travel that is very important, and the value adds to the customer in particular to come. It's not just being safe, but it's the innovation behind being safe and marketing that. And don't be afraid as a country to market where you are. We're actually coming up on the hour. We do have some really important questions. So I would encourage everyone that's in the audience here to join the platform. It's event.trulyexpo.com. You can actually put your questions in there and network with the rest of the team. There is a lot of questions in regards to the pandemic payment that was given to people while they were unemployed, because obviously it was a lot higher than what they were making within hospitality. But I'm sure Eric would agree with me when I say this in particular. It's up to the hospitality employers and the industry in particular, as I said at the start, to educate people, but also add incentives and value add. You may be on the lower pay, but there is an incentive to do X, or you're going to be able to travel. There's a chance for bonuses. We're going to pay healthcare. You know, there's a lot of different elements you're able to add to it. And education is probably the biggest key factor in this role to the future. We are now out of time, gentlemen. I'm very sorry to say. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation today. Please, again, as I mentioned, everyone in the audience, please feel free to connect and network with everybody individually. There is a networking platform for this, and we're very grateful for thank you for having you today.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Christina.